How many of you in life has and how or have taken the bait? Like somebody goes fishing and they have to use, like, just an example. They use a bait. They use a little worm, whatever. And when the bait drops into the underneath the water, right? That on the water represents who you really are, right? Because we live on surface and we live below. The below person is who you really are. The majority of the times you're looking out. You're looking out as a spectator, or at some point or another, you're going to become deeply involved, right? You're deeply involved. And when that bait drops in the water, right? There's the bait, the hook, right? And there's a little, the little floater, so that the one who's doing the fishing can see when it's moving, and they know they got a catch, right? Every one of us, unless you've been taught well in your life and you've grown up with people who may have had experiences in their life, and they know that they want to make sure their children do not feel the pain that they had, do not feel the experience, the kind of troubles they had. They will build not only into their children, but they'll make sure they build a specific legacy for their children to avoid a lot of things that other people who never had that privilege succumb to, right? For the most part in our lives, and only some people have that ability. For the most part in life, some people, they don't really play the hero. They really are heroic. That they're kind of like, they set it their goal to save other people, or to be an instrument for other people to escape the lake where the fishing is happening. When you take a bait of anything that comes your way, it's intentional. Okay, you may not see hidden forces that are at work. One of the things that it goes from ignorance to, you started noticing repetitive factors in your life, and you have people in your life asking you questions, out the ordinary. People who are a little bit too inquisitive about your goings and your comings. People who ask too many questions about your future, or a little bit too monitoring. They're monitoring you. These people are fishing, and you are the catch. They bait you by questions. They bait you by making you feel. And also, they can come along in your life when you're at a crucial place in your life. Sometimes you're going through. You may be about to experience some times where, or you may just be starting. You just lost a job or something. They can come along and they can really, 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 because you are so in a vulnerable position, they can use the right bait to get you. And the reason why they want to actually bait you and catch you is they want to take you, put you in their little box, and cook you for later so they can eat you. When I say about you, I'm talking about people who have something really good going for them on the inside. They have an it factor. They have the right stuff. And whether or not they consistently keep meeting with certain setbacks, or they will meet with setbacks in their life, is because they have something going for them. People have said this, and I really 100% believe it. The wicked one will never target anybody who's like him. Jesus says, if the his kingdom is divided against itself, how can it stand? The wicked one, even his people, his workings, how complex of a matter he works, and it is complex because we sometimes take life a little bit too simply. We take it from the place, well, everything's okay, everything's all good, and I'm just going to keep trusting everybody. And I did that for years. And you can't, because not everyone's like you. Not everyone dances the same way. Not everyone sings the same way. Some people really are very good at baiting other people. And when they catch you and they have you, they start extracting information from your life. And I'm talking about the stuff that makes you unique and special. A lot of times, the people who are doing the baiting ain't have much going for them. And even though don't be fooled. Sometimes you may think because a person has a lot of the money, that means they have a lot of good going for them. They don't. We don't even know the stories behind why people do have what they have in life. Some people get it because of their inheritance, because of family bloodline, because it was passed on to them. They can get it because they ended up in certain companies with other people who were like them, bosses, who took an instant liking to them and basically put them forward. Because people who are bad put bad people forward, and that's the truth you will discover about life. Good people will never ever be promoted unless it's a good person who sees that this person's somewhat like me, this person, I can see it in their eyes. I can see the way they act. I can see the way they move. Because I remember when I had my time of growth before I got to where I got to, and I'm gonna help that person. I'm gonna make sure that I'm gonna make it a little more easy for that person. That's what's so good about good people, right? People who subscribe to goodness. They are not in the business of baiting. They're in the business of helping. They're in the business of putting other people in a good position. They're not in the business of baiting. I've seen stories, and I've even on YouTube also, of people talking about their marriages. One of the greatest, if not the most, decisions you're going to make in your life, for people who discovered it way after the fact. The hindsight, which is the worst place sometimes you can be in your life. I'd much rather have foresight than hindsight. The Bible says that the prudent foresees evil and hides himself, but the wicked pass on, not the wicked, sorry, not the wicked, but the simple pass on and are punished. The very word simple means simpleton, one who's quite still has a lot to learn, right? And God never set these things in place to say, oh, well, that's it. No, God, the majority of the times, is on the sidelines. A lot of stuff that He is endowed within the human race is there. It's readily available. Well, we are not ready for it. People are not ready for it because it's only till you go asking, seeking, and knocking are you going to find these aspects. And a lot of times people don't go after the right stuff until they learn how bad the wrong stuff can be. So doubling back a little bit, probably one of the greatest decisions, if not that you're going to make in life, is a marriage. When you're about to enter into, you have to really sit down and ask yourself, is this person share my values? Don't let people fool you. The one thing about marriage and the whole ceremony, it's one big pathetic circus, because it is something that's been introduced in our society, and even a lot of societies around the world, to make it into a celebration. It's not. It's a very serious decision you're making. And it should be, even from the point when they're having a celebration, people should be getting up there and talking about where my marriage went wrong, and I hope that doesn't happen to you. When you're with that person and they're dressed up and you're dressed up, you're both playing a role. When those door closes and you decide to know have this thing called marriage, that's where the clothing comes off. And I'm talking about the sexual part of it. But that's where you're not dressed up anymore. And that poor person, whether it be a man, if it's a woman, she will take off everything that she's worn to get you, your attention, her fake eyelashes, her vanity. Beauty's vain, charm is deceitful, right? And after she's got you, that's the bait she used. Once she gets you and she has you and the hook has been established, she begins to feed off you for the rest of her time. And even though you wake up and say, okay, that's it. I'm getting out of here. She's allowed. They've created law, put laws in place now she's been given, even though she don't deserve it. But because you took the bait, she's now entitled to half of what you have. And you can't do a thing about it. If you get baited further with a wrong person to now create a legacy because you're naturally being taught it's a good thing, who doesn't want to, right? You won't have children with her. Well, that just becomes more deadly. And if that child has a lean towards a wrong person, that child is going to be your deadliest enemy. Because that child comes from you. That child is going to go after you in areas in your life you never thought existed, in your soul, and it'll destroy you and defeat you in such a way that you never thought you could ever have known the pain of being baited. That bait. When a bait enters in and it comes in through the mouth, that's where you lose your say. You don't have no say anymore, and it begins to pull you along. A lot of times, some people have learned how to take the bait out, and they escape it. Right. The majority of the times in our life is that we learn to see the fisher, the fisherman or the fisherwoman. And getting about a bad marriage again, just double back a little bit. A good lady marries a terrible man who snowed her so well. I'm sure he was able to provide and do all these other things, but he turned to be a monster. Well, the bait was her lack of security, her fear of being in need or alone, because that's what other people who came baiting her with lies, telling her that, oh, being alone or being at a certain point of your life and not being married, that means you've lost social uh, uh, some social healthiness. And it's not. Look, it'd be better to remain single, man, than to marry the wrong person. So just like I like keep my videos short. In the arena of bait, before you make any strong decisions, or that the fisher, we do. We as human beings, something goes off inside of us when we are going to engage that person. As you take life as a case by case basis, you don't lend what you had in the past to that situation. You don't be haphazard. Well, it's going to be fine. I'm just going to remain positive. I'm just going to be a really nice guy. And I'm going to look through the lens that everyone's okay until proven guilty. No, you have to actually be very careful. Be very careful, especially in these days too we're living in. There's such a large buffet of people in our lives today, different cultures, different frequencies, different beliefs, different upbringings, and they all are coming into the table and you're with them. And you don't know who's got the wrong stuff and who's got the right stuff. But I can guarantee you one thing: when you enter into any kind of transaction with them, their bait is going to become your bait just because you start listening to them. So keep yourself always in a safe place, man. Baiting people are very real, and they, for the majority of times, they're very intentional. Watch them carefully, and you will know them. Jesus said you'll know them by their fruits. Okay? Be very careful out there. Enjoy life to the fullest, man. Enjoy and be happy and live uprightly before the Most High, and He'll give you the joy of life. As He says, I'll give you the joy in life, the joy unspeakable, because He didn't call us to suffer, not in a bad way. There's a time we will go through sacrifices for other people when He calls us upon it. He'll be there with us. But this kind of suffering God doesn't call us to, man. It's called self-infliction. Be careful with the bait. Bait is it's very complex too. When it's there before you and dangling, and you do know, we do know. So pay attention and I would say, be awake. Have a good day and do subscribe. Thank you.